Well, welcome back, my friends, to another episode of Automotive Drama. I'm still working on this Berton that I ended up owning. It was really cheap, so I can't complain. But, like always, likes are nice, scribes are better. Use your little thumb, ring the bell, hit the subscribe button. Questions, comments, feel free. Excuse me. But anyways, what I said about the guy that did the body work, I don't know if you've seen any of the other episodes of this vehicle that did the body work on this thing previously. I thought he did a nice job. No, it was all shit. Oop, I'm sorry, am I allowed to say that? It was all crap. I actually had to take it all the way back down. This was all primed. That was all primed. It was a different color primer. It was that color primer. That down there was all primed. This door was all primed. I thought he did a good job on this, but once I really got into it, it's not really... It just didn't have enough primer. There wasn't a lot of body work to do. There was a couple dings. I fixed one here. And of course, always use etching primer. After you break through, I found that out the hard way. Always use etching primer. Now we'll go to this side. This is the primer that the guy actually did that I already got into, and I think it's going to be okay. This it was a little chip. It was actually a little tiny ding. That one right there, I'm not sure. I think I could just fill that one with primer. This one right here was a little chip that was almost a little tiny ding. I filled that one pretty nicely with a polyester spot putty. And then all that down there was primered. There wasn't a lot of primer on this door. It really didn't need one. This is where when I knocked it down and I etched it and I knocked it back over. I'm going to throw some etching primer on that. Then all the primer and all the work that he did down there was really garbage. I don't know if you saw the video about all the scratch lines. You can kind of see them right here, all these like scratch lines. Okay, he didn't prep it right. Now, I'm really glad that I knocked it all down. Something told me I should have just knocked it all down to begin with. I spent a few hours trying to see if his body work was worth anything, and once I got into it deeper, I realized, especially over there, he had primer. Over here, over there, over here. The more I got into it, even back here, there was a ding, and it just was never prepped right. He just did never prepped it right. And for the paint job I'm going to put on this car, if this car is not prepped right, the paint job's not going to turn out like I like it, or it's the way it's supposed to be. And then I got to start all over. So yeah, we don't want that. So I broke it down. And once I got to that point, I saw all these etch lines. Still, these are 80 marks. I have no idea why he did this. There was a little ding here. And I think there was a little tape. I'm not even sure about that one yet. But I hammered it pretty hard and it came through. I mean, he had all this filler all the way from here to here. And the more I got into it, the more I was seeing... you can't see them now. I knocked it all out. It had pits. It was just no... It was just completely done wrong. Now, come to find out, the guy that did the top and the body work wasn't the same guy that did the side body work. So, I guess that explains a lot. But, I don't know, I guess the guy was trying to do it himself or something, and he really liked his spray gun, and maybe his other gun wasn't spraying right, whatever, I don't know. But after all this is said and done, I wasted about 10 hours, probably. And I should have just knocked it down to begin with the way I wanted to, but like I said, I thought that the guy seemed like he did it right. I didn't like the way he boxed it out, but anyways, it's come down to the point, if you see where I have this car, I'm going to etch this. I'm going to put etching primer on all this. It's already This is actually only 320. I have to wet scuff it all, the skin, in fact the top, everything. I'm gonna wet scuff it with 220. I'm gonna wet it, wet sand it all down, get it all prepped. That I'm gonna hit this lightly, because I already etched it, so I just want to just scuff it a little bit, really lightly, with 220. And I've pretty much gone through almost the rest of the car with 220. There's a couple of spots I have to fix. This car's got a lot of lines. But I broke it down to the point I got to do that. I have to primer the hood. I have a bunch of other pieces I need to primer. And I've gotten to the point where I thought it was done right, like I said, but it wasn't. I should have did what I wanted to do, but I listened to some people, and, I gave it a shot. And the more I got into it, like I said, the more terrible the bodywork was. But now, I've got it to the point where I'm going to just prime the whole car. And then I got to spend another 15 or 20 hours sanding it. Nah, probably not so much after I prime it. I'll scuff it down with 320. I'll block it all down. I'll power block it real quick wet, because I have a wet tool I can use, and I can block it down wet with 320, and then 400 this thing by hand, and then I'll be able to throw a real paint job on it. There's just too much crap I keep going through every time I try to do a line. So unless I actually primer this thing the way it should be, and not, like some shops, just grind them up with 80 and throw Bondo all over them. No, you don't do that. You use high build primer, and, because the primer's made for the paint, and that's how you do it. So, anyways, if you tuned in this long, I appreciate it. Like always, likes are nice. I'm trying to think of something funny, but all I could say is funny about this is how stupid I am. Now, if you do look down the side of that car, it is super flat. You'll see the sand marks. There's some sand marks, but it is flat. Like over here, I etched it because I went through. I mean, for the most part, I have no idea why I still haven't done this. I have no idea why this guy did that. Now, all that you're seeing there is after. I still ain't fixed that. Big problem. But, man, I mean, I can get this right, but there's a... I'll show you that in a later video. But all that gray primer you're seeing, that's just touch-up primer, 2K in a can. Because I went through here and here, I etched it, but after I went through, I etched it, and then I reprimed all this, because you want to keep it sealed as possible, and the etching primer just digs in, and it just sinks. All this work that he did here, and down there, and over there, I threw etching primer on it, and I just saw it sink, so it was not done properly. I mean, if you do it right, you might be able to get away with it, but you got to use etching primer, because it just it does what it says. It etches, it sinks. And if he did all this work, primered all this for this one little spot. Now, yes, I would have primered the whole car, done the work, but I had to break down and see what was going on before at that point. So yes, I am going to reprimer this entire car with 2K. I'm going to give it a dust, probably a couple dust coats or tack coats, however you want to call it, and then a light coat, and then I'll give it a heavy medium, and then I'll let it dry for 24 hours, and then I'll probably scuff it up with 220 wet, wipe it all back down, dry it out, and then I'll throw a heavy on it, and then by the time I get done sanding it all down, after I redust the whole car, it'll be flat, primed and prepped right. So it'll take about the 2 gallons of clear I'm going to put on it, and then all the lines I got to throw in it. So, yeah. It's going to be fun, but, it is what it is. So here we go. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good night.